Hey, new camera for the first time in like a decade, so sorry if you're not used to seeing me in this many pixels. Let me know if you want me to go back to the old one so you don't have to. Hi again, guys, and I'm gonna keep it a buck. The last week has made my organs crawl in ways I haven't felt them prattle along in before. And it's been for a variety of reasons. Like, the big one has been disgust, of course, but other times some stuff just got so absurd you couldn't help but laugh. Like, Jesus! If you didn't know, about a week ago, the House Oversight Committee dropped 20,000 pages of documents they had obtained directly from the Jeffrey Epstein estate. A lot of it was like filler email or articles that had been attached to those emails, so the entirety of the article had been archived and was included inside the files, which has led to some funny control effing here and there. The point being that there's a lot of bloat that isn't direct correspondence from Jeffrey Epstein. But the last time I went dumpster diving through government files like this was when the new JFK documents had dropped early this year, and honestly, there wasn't any crazy stuff in there about JFK's death itself, just funny stuff out of context. And as time passed, like a week after these things had come out, it became apparent there was similarly crazy out of context shit in this file dump. The most initially weird part was they just dropped the entire 20,000 page archive dump on a random Google Drive. Like, it's accessible through a Google Drive link. I'm sure you've seen your fair share of insane shit put across your For You page on Reddit, Twitter, TikTok, and everywhere you doom scrolled or forget that any of this is happening at all, only to be reminded that it is still happening by those same places. I saw the same sort of thing, as well as doing my own share of deep diving in the recently dropped Epstein Files to find the dumbest shit that I could. We will be seeing weird shit in here, as it's unavoidable. Searching this video was the occasional giggle sandwiched between reading about really descriptive, often depraved sex acts. The one you've probably heard of, the breakthrough email, was one between Jeffrey Epstein and his brother, who many people found out existed for the first time through this, Mark Epstein, where Mark asked, "What's your boy Donald up to now?" Jeffrey says, "All good. Bannon is with me." Mark tells Jeffrey to ask Bannon, ask him if Putin has the photos of Trump blowing Bubba, where Bubba was a well-known nickname for President Bill Clinton, who is another known associate of Epstein in years past. Now, this could have easily been referring to a number of different things or people, or have been entirely made up, but because it was so absurd to imagine it actually happening and came from a source that it did, people immediately just ran with it being Bill Clinton. Jeffrey responds, "And I thought I had Cirrus." Mark says, "You and your boy Donnie can make a remake of the movie Get Hard." Mark says, "I'd rather be in Donnie D's shoes," and Jeffrey corrects, "You mean Donnie T." It sounds completely made up. You're telling me Vladimir Putin has pictures of Trump giving Bill Clinton a blowjob? I personally couldn't believe it, but that didn't stop me from laughing at all the jokes and genuine news coverage of the possibility. And because it made so much noise, Mark Epstein decided that he just had to come out and make a statement about it. Recently, emails from 2018 between my brother and me were made public. They were simply a part of a humorous private message exchange between two brothers and were never meant for public release or to be interpreted as serious remarks. For the avoidance of doubt, the reference to quote-unquote Bubba in this correspondence is not in any way a reference to former President Bill Clinton. Any attempt to conflate that reference with President Clinton or to read sweeping implications into them misrepresents both the purpose and the tone of the original correspondence. I want to be absolutely clear on this point so that the public record is not distorted and so that speculation does not unfairly implicate people who are not actually being referenced in those communications. Okay, he said this was meant as a joke. He says Bubba is not talking about Bill Clinton. Very specific thing, it feels like, to me, he forgot to clarify, was if the concept of Donald Trump giving somebody named Bubba a blowjob at all was made up. Like, if the intent was to clarify this beyond any ambiguity that it's not real at all, you left like one really big part open to interpretation. An alternate story went around of Bubba being the name of one of Ghislaine Maxwell's horses, and I could not find a good source on that anywhere. That one caught on probably because the implications of it would arguably be even more insane than Bubba being Bill Clinton. Though according to the publication The Advocate, Ali Clark is a spokesperson for Mark Epstein who said that Bubba referred to a private person. Again, even if that part is true, it's not an outright explicit denial that Trump never sucked someone off. Now, while scouring a bunch of social media for different weird things people had found inside these Epstein emails, I was incredibly surprised to find this mentioned in the Avatar subreddit of all places. It's like two of the few remaining bastions of the monoculture, James Cameron's Avatar and politics, collided when Jeffrey Epstein got asked by someone, "Did you see Avatar?" Spelled wrong. "I do not have a DVD because it's 3D. Yeah, I never found out if Jeffrey Epstein watched that movie, and quite frankly, I'm not super interested on Epstein's opinions on, like, well, anything, but media especially, because reading through a lot of these emails, he comes off like kind of a fucking idiot. Much has been made in these emails about how it seems like Jeffrey Epstein can't spell a single English word to save his life. He couldn't for a few months, space, comma, too hot, sorry for all the typos, space, period, sent for my iPhone. Like, it's really hard to translate into speech just how broken a lot of these sentences and communications are. You could say that he's just your typical old person who doesn't know how to type on a touchscreen and is doing it one pointer finger at a time. The thing is, we have pictures of when this guy used to be a math professor somehow, and he couldn't spell his own goddamn name on a chalkboard. Mr. Epstein. I don't know, man. Have I just been saying his name wrong this whole time and he's writing it down like he wants his students to phonetically pronounce it? I'm gonna be honest, I don't really care. In case you haven't realized, I'm not in the business of being very charitable in my interpretation of Jeffrey Epstein. If being willfully obtuse about what he probably meant in a sentence, or being nicer and giving him the benefit of the doubt is an option, I don't care what the most reasonable interpretation is. I'm picking the thing that makes me giggle more, because the vast majority of this subject matter makes my fucking soul curl inwards. Epstein was caught saying, I no longer use terms like broad, sad face. This gives you real, don't call them bitches, bro, vibes. Jeffrey was really thinking about how his language and vocabulary could make the women around him and in his life uncomfortable, and he tried to adjust his wording to make them feel more welcome. He ran a truly egalitarian child trafficking ring. Or he would, if the way I presented that message was at all accurate. If it was, the contrast between these two things would be fucking absurd. When actually, Kathy here had told Jeffrey that something he had asked was a broad question, and he replied that he doesn't use terms like broad anymore, which, you know, theoretically could still mean the way I presented it to you originally. It's just very unlikely and less funny. What I don't need to take out of context or give context to make absolutely ridiculous to hear is something else that Kathy had said to Jeffrey. On August 26, 2015, she said to Jeff, "Going up to New York Friday morning. Think I am going to drive. I will then stop to pee and get gas at a rest stop on the New Jersey Turnpike. We'll observe all of the people there who are at least 100 pounds overweight, will have a mild panic attack as a result of the observation, and will then decide that I am not eating another bite of food for the rest of my life out of fear that I will end up like one of those people." Sent for my iPad. Because of fucking course it was, dude. One thing that has always killed me about these big government dumps of documents, like I said earlier, is just how much bloat in them there is. Like, if this was a random Google doc meant to expose someone on Twitter, no one would ever finish the entire thing, and it would end up doing fuck all because of how many repeats of messages there are and blank pages. And aside from the archive dump being hosted on Google Drive like it was a random Twitter account, the emails Jeffrey was getting stuff sent to and sending stuff from was just a random Gmail account. And the motherfucker had the nerve to have this copy-pasted sign-off message that I had to read at the end of every single email exchange he ever had. The information contained in this communication is confidential, may be attorney-client privilege, may constitute inside information, and is intended only for the use of the addressee. It's the property of Jeffrey Epstein. Unauthorized use, disclosure, or copying of this communication, or any part thereof, is strictly prohibited and may be unlawful. If you have received this communication in error, please notify us immediately by return email or by email to @gvacation@gmail.com. And destroy this communication and all copies thereof, including all the attachments. Copyright, all rights reserved. Guys, when these messages were written, we were never supposed to see them as the viewing public. Now we have to destroy all our copies of it. Another thing that bloated a bunch of these exchanges was them almost always being sent not from a computer or a secure line, but sent from my AT&T Windows mobile phone, sent via BlackBerry from T-Mobile. Sent from my iPhone, sent from my iPad, sent from my BlackBerry smartphone. If they were still doing this shit today, God forbid, they would have probably sent emails from their fucking Samsung smart fridge if it was the most convenient way to tell their colleagues that they were still fucking kids. It's like bafflingly absurd. It's led to people saying shit like this. People whose worst crime is pirating movies. I always use a VPN, only use Proton Mail, and if my password has ever been typed in wrong even once, it auto-deletes everything. Meanwhile, Jeffrey Epstein on a Gmail account with his initials, "Yeah, we fuck kids, bitch, what about it?" Sent from my iPad. Like, he did not think a thing of it. "Hello, it's me, Jeff. Had fun committing sex crimes with you last weekend." Every Epstein email is like, yes, I love girls. Everyone knows it. Happy birthday. And among the exchanges Epstein had with the rich and powerful, even if they claim not to know exactly what kind of individual Jeffrey Epstein was fucking on, he certainly had a reputation as a guy who indeed fucked, as these guys were often asking him advice on how to deal with women on the most base of level. Larry Summers was 64 years old when he sent Jeffrey Epstein this email asking for advice on his love life. We talked on phone. Then, I can't talk later. Don't think I can talk tomorrow. I said, what are you up to? She said, I'm busy. I said, awfully coy you are. And then I said, did you really rearrange the weekend we were going to be together because guy number 3 was coming? She said, no, his schedule changed after we changed our plans. I said, okay, I got to go. Call me when you feel like it. Tone was not of a good feeling. I don't want to be in a gift-giving competition while being the friend without benefits. Imagine being this guy, hearing this shit come out about you, about some shit you said a decade ago. And a decade ago is when you were in your goddamn mid-60s. Old Jeff Epstein's advice was this. She's smart, making you pay for past errors. Ignore the daddy I'm going to go out with, the motorcycle guy. You reacted well. Annoyed shows caring, no whining showed strength. And there was a fuck ton of typos in Jeff's response that I cleaned up the pronunciation for. Like, he types like I do in Discord DMs when I'm in a goddamn rush. When all of this was like way more obfuscated a few years back, but no less sinister, there was this idea people had that this whole thing was like a lot more cerebral, that it was a network of manipulation that Jeffrey Epstein was almost a psychopathic mastermind about. And maybe an aspect of that is still true. Like, I do believe intelligence can be compartmentalized. Maybe he types like a goddamn dunce, but he has the brain of a fucking, I don't know, something that's not as dumb as his text makes him seem like. But everything I see of this guy makes him feel like a fucking idiot. An idiot who, despite being an idiot, was still able to do god-awful shit anyways. Now, many people's main question with this whole thing is who and or what are actually in these emails? Who was mentioned by name and implicated as a result of being mentioned? At least one person out there was surprised to find out they were. I've discovered my name appears in Jeffrey Epstein's emails because Flipboard sent him a link roundup that included one of my articles on July 16th, 2019, 10 days after his arrest. And as someone put it in the replies, perfect 2 truths and a lie fact. That part I found funny, but I refused to dignify. He said this dude should put it on his Hinge profile. Other one-off mentions when you Control-F random words on one of the databases that actually lets you search the documents by word include mentions of Call of Duty, Minecraft, anime, and Jeffrey Epstein distinctly being referred to as Unk. Now, the obvious linchpin of this whole thing is what do the emails we currently have say about Donald Trump? Jeffrey Epstein would ask people, would you like photos of Donald and girls in bikinis in my kitchen? In that same thread, he discussed a rather dumb bet they had. When we bet that Marla Maples was pregnant, I lost and sent him $10,000 of baby food. With the whole thing typed like he was drunk off his rocker when he did it. And profoundly, what it seems like is that at some point down the line, Epstein just decided he fucking hated Trump, but like real dedicated hater shit, where he was like following damn near every move of Trump's first presidential term. He called Trump dumber than you can possibly imagine and more evil than you could possibly imagine in so many words. Like, he said there was not a single cell of goodness in the dude. And truthfully, this is the most substantial dump of Epstein documents we've had in some time, if ever. And who knows if we're done here. Trump has said that the Republicans in the House should just drop the rest since they, quote, have nothing to hide, which I'm gonna be honest, it's a little difficult to believe, and especially to take Trump at his word. Tried to talk about literally anything else when it's brought up to him, and how he's been implicated about knowing Epstein up to this point. I'm just incredibly skeptical of anything he does regarding this moving forward, but it still remains to be seen, so I guess we will see. Regardless, that's all I've got for now. I hope you guys didn't lose too many brain cells watching this. If you enjoyed somehow, be sure to drop a like and subscribe. Anyways, this has been Kwite, and I'll see y'all next time. I do not want to kill myself.